Rid of this jacket.
Got a call?
I'm on YouTube.
Oh,
YouTube. All right, YouTube. We are back. Mike should be working this time. If you guys can just do me a big favor and let me know if you can hear me or not, since it won't make sense to kind of proceed without you guys hearing me. So the mic issue should be fixed up here, guys. I'm just going to wait for the first comment to come into the chat just to let me know that you guys can hear me. We can. Perfect. Thank you, Pellet. Thank you for confirming that for me. All right, nice little reversal here on the spooge. All right, ladies and gentlemen, so here we are for the midday update. You can call it the later day update on today's session, just because we're coming in a little bit late. We did have a little issue with my mic, but that's been rectified, and here we are. So let's go ahead and get started with the news that came through this morning. We had a couple of economic releases throughout the US session, nothing really crazy. We had MBA mortgage applications, which came in at minus 11.9% versus 0.5% prior. So big miss on that front. Also had August FHFA house price index, the month over month figures. Bit of a miss on that front, 0.2% versus 0.3 expected. And the big one on today's session was the crude oil inventory report, which came in a little bit of a bull here. So we had 3 million barrel, what is that? 3 million barrel build expected. We had a draw of minus 1.7 million. So that meant that whenever we have a draw, guys, a draw is essentially meaning that there is less than anticipated supply in the markets. When there's less anticipated supply, markets generally tend to rally, and that's kind of what we've been seeing on the back of that report. Gasoline as well came in at a bit of a draw as well. It was expected to come in at minus 2 million barrels, came in at minus 3.1, so a bit more of a bullish draw on that front. And distillates as well were the only ones that didn't really come in as bullish as expected. Minus 3 million was the expectation, minus 2.7 is what we got. So still a draw, however, not as much of a draw as anticipated. So overall on crude, that was a big bull. On gasoline, also a bull, and distillates also a bull, but a little bit less of a bull than the other two. So that's really what we had throughout the U.S. session. One of the main drivers throughout this morning has been Mr. Zuckerberg testifying in front of Capitol Hill with regards to the cryptocurrency Libra. And we had that streaming here in the office, and he was getting some tough banter throughout the report. I haven't really seen it since I came back here, but it looks like Facebook is up 1.48% at the moment. And that's really what we had on the agenda this morning. Again, we are coming in a little bit later here at 2 p.m. and so there's nothing really left for the remainder of the session as far as news is concerned. Nothing that I really see here, and that's kind of going to be the way it goes. So from here on in, I think order flow is what you're going to be wanting to look at. And to that point, let me pull up my charts here since we just covered all of the um, news. And so my charts here, guys, are going to look a little bit different. I'm not really going to be looking at the quote board this time around. We're just going to look at the charts here, give you guys an idea of what I'm looking at personally, and where we can go from here. So you guys will be seeing a bit of a different screen than you are used to if this is your first time watching. All right, if it's not your first, or sorry, if you have been watching, if this is your first time, welcome. And have a quick gander here at what we can offer as far as this setup here. The setup that you're going to be seeing is my actual day trading setup. And if you guys are newer traders or you're not really aware of what we do, how we trade, some of the charts here may be new to you, especially the footprint chart. But that's a risk I'm willing to take. So let's jump on to the charts here. Okay, so that is my crude oil chart. All right, so crude oil chart right now is really bullish here. If I bring over that pivot one that you guys are used to, you guys will see kind of what we were speaking on yesterday and what's kind of come through on today's session. So yesterday we were just kind of mentioning that we're stuck in a bit of a range. However, it was giving us slightly bullish undertone in the market, given the fact that we couldn't quite break above that high, but on the pullback, we still kind of formed what looked like a higher low. And so that's kind of been what we've seen on today's session. Nice little run up to those previous highs, sell off, and now we are up at R2. Haven't broken those 55.20s. If you guys will remember, yesterday we were saying this resistance level between these 54.80s to these 55.20s will be a big line in the sand for the sellers to remain in control. If that level was to be taken out, we'd likely see a buying resume. The buyers start to come in a little bit more aggressive, and that's what we're seeing on today's session here. So we can get rid of that. Just drag it off to my other side here. And what you will see here on the 10-tick chart is basically today's session, right? So today's session, big bull. There's no real denying it. You guys can see we opened up right around 53.71s or 72, somewhere around there, and really have not looked back. It's just been an aggressive day. A little bit of consolidation, following that not the FOMC, the EIA report. Right, report came out at 10:30. A little bit of algo activity got us up into the the high 70s here, 54.70s, and we kind of consolidated through that report, understanding the fact that this was a bullish undertone, and this thing's just been going. I came back from the gym around 1:30ish, and this thing's just been going. It's been a bit of a choppy, not a choppy ride, but a bit of a grind higher. You guys are seeing, based on what we had earlier to what we have now, just a lot of grind, a lot of grinds. It's quite difficult to get in on those trades. But the bull looks to be back in here on crude oil, and that's really what we're looking into. The pit session closes at 2:30 p.m. Eastern time, so we are coming in on that pit session. And generally, what tends to happen, generally, guys, not always, is on the pit, we'll often get a fade. So 2:30 p.m. We'll see how high this guy gets, but if it can get up into, say, these 56.30s, crude tends to like the 30s and the 70s. If it's within 30 cents of a round number leading into 10 minutes prior to that close, you'll often get a fade. So she might pop into those 56.30s or so and then fade on down, close out the market. At this point, it's just been a bit of a ride. You will be going against the trend, but that's tends to be the case here. You are seeing a lot of offers up in these 55.90s, 56s. We'll see if they can clear these guys out and what happens from there. But at this point in time, what you are seeing throughout the whole day is all these offers moving up, and then on the right side here, you guys will see these bright blue bids. These are the bid side, the buyers. These guys are also moving up. So it's showing you buying interest is moving closer to the market, and offer interest is running away from the market. All right, so we'll see what these guys do. If they hold here, get filled, we could get that potential fade. If not, if they just continue to run as this thing climbs towards that level, we'll probably get back up into those 56.30s to 56.50s or so into the end of today's session. So crude is rallying quite aggressively here. This is a chart that you guys might not be too familiar with. So let me just clean this up. Oops, clean this up quickly. Let's make that 100. That should clean me up. All right, there we go. All right, so what you guys are seeing is very, very shallow rotations here. So crude, what it's been doing is giving us little rotations, popping, rotations, popping, rotation, pop. And so as it starts doing this and as it continues to break previous highs, you can look to potentially get in on those rotations. The thing is, you got to keep risk very tight. And, at some point, this thing's got to slow down. So you're seeing some offer interest right here. These guys got traded. And now we'll see what these guys do. This is the benefit of using order flow. You can see these guys are holding on. They got traded through. These guys just got traded through. And so now the next level, 56.20s, is what you'd be looking for. On the footprint chart, what this shows you is basically rotations, so how the market moves, how the market ebbs and flows. And these green levels here, this is aggressive buying. These red levels here, that's aggressive selling. So in these kinds of markets here, as it's coming up, ideally what you see is a rotation down with some sell imbalances, and then for us to follow through on the next rotation with green buy imbalances, that's a potential option to get long. All right, so we are seeing a red sell imbalance here, which means we should be seeing a bit of a pullback. Where does that go? Well, from these 56s, the way that it's been going, it should stay, within the 90s. However, I wouldn't be surprised to see us kind of come back down, retest this little cluster area before we try to continue on higher. So that's what I got on crude oil, guys. On the heat map, I'm seeing offers sitting up at the 58.20s and then some more sitting up at the 58.25s. And as far as bids are concerned, I'm not really seeing any bids until 53.05s. All right, so that's kind of where the market's at right now. Offers sitting up top. That's probably where we're going to be headed to. But first, we need to do a counter trend rotation, get some sellers excited, and then pop it back up into those offers. That's what I'm seeing there on crude oil. Can I just drag this guy up? Yes, I can. Perfect. All right, and here is your S&P 500. So this is my S&P 500 screen here, guys. EPZ, here we are. So we were mentioning to the team this morning that that 3,000 level and the pivot was likely going to be a nice resistance for the buyers in this market, simply because what I was arguing was the fact that we double topped yesterday, sold off, and into the US Open today, what we had was basically a swing low form, which was a potential higher low, and then another attempt into those lows failed, and then we started rotating up. And so that high right here was a level that we said, sellers would have to defend this zone if we're going to stay in a potential selling market, if the selling control is going to remain. And so we are seeing some rotations holding those 3000s, holding that pivot level. We are back below it right now at the 96s or so. And so that level held, so that's showing me sellers are in control. What I'd be anticipating is maybe a press back down into those S1s leading into the close of today's session. And we'll see where it goes from there. The fact that we did break above that, though, you're not quite out of the gates yet here for the longs. The longs can simply pull back now that that is a higher high, right? If we get a pullback that fails to breach back below S1, you'll have another potential higher low, and then that could set us up for potential upside in tomorrow's session and leading into the end of the week to take out that liquidity sitting above these 3018 or 3016s right around that level. All right, so that's what I'm seeing here on the pivot chart. If I minimize this guy, drag it out, and then we can take a look at the 10-tick chart. And what you will see on today's session is we had that previous swing high. On this morning session, you can see we kind of dumped off the open into that VWAP, pressed right back above, found some resistance, selling pressure, again, retested the VWAP and held, broke to fresh highs, right into the 5-day POC here, 5-day point of control. This is where the most amount of volume has traded in the last 5 sessions. So not really much of a surprise that we found some resistance there. And now we're pulling back. What's the target for this pullback? Well, that target is basically your opening range high and your Globex VWAP here around that, was that 94 3/4 or so? It's the level I'd be looking for into the pullback. And so here is kind of the last line in the sand for the bulls to defend. If they can come in here, hold some rotations, you might have another opportunity to pick this up for a run back up into those 3000s. Alternatively, if we just flush back below VWAP, which is something we haven't seen today, all right, rejection, rejection. Here's the third test of it. So what happens on this test? Do the bears succeed in driving it through, or do the bulls succeed in holding that as support? That's to be determined, but that's kind of the picture that's being painted at this moment. And you could really argue for either end here. You can say that this could be a potential head and shoulders that continues lower, or we just find support there and we make another test of those highs. That being said, if we do find support in this level, you don't want to aim for fresh highs. You want to always get paid into those previous highs because it might not always get all the way up there. Usually what you'll get is, 3/4 of a retracement back. And if it's going to form a higher low and continue lower, you'll still get paid. All right. So you're not looking for a home run here. You're looking for singles and doubles, getting paid on those, and then looking to scale up. You don't have to catch the big moves. You just need a piece of it, and you need to be able to do that consistently. All right, so that is my 10 tick chart. My 5 tick chart here is showing you guys that short-term structure is a little bit bearish. You are seeing double top here. We had pull down, rotation up. Again, where did that come into? Just about 3/4 of the way back up before we came back down and formed a new lower low, another rotation, lower high, coming down into VWAP. This is a lower low. So this trend is still remaining here. You guys are seeing on the 5 tick now. We're kind of drilling down into what the market's showing us. And so that trend's kind of remained, and we're kind of stuck in a little bit of a channel here. So I wouldn't be surprised to see a move to the upside here. The big question comes down, if we rotate back down into it again, do they hold it? If yes, you can look for a potential pick me up for a run back up overnight highs. If not, you'll likely have fresh lows, at which point you can look for rotations back up and look to sell that puppy. And what I'm seeing here is a lot of bids showing up at these 29.90 right at the previous day close. So that could be a target for us. If we do get below VWAP, I will likely try potential shorts to target the open and to target the opening range low. If we can get in there and I get a couple on, I might look to extend that target down into the previous day close. All right, so that's what the 5 tick chart is showing us and what the footprint chart is showing us. Again, you guys are seeing there was a bit of buying interest coming in. All right, we came down into this zone, bit of buying interest, but overall, look what you're seeing here. A lot of selling coming in, one buyer. Erased by another sell imbalance, another buyer comes in, more selling, more buying, more buying, more selling. And now as we're kind of coming down, you're seeing the sellers are a little bit more aggressive than the buyers. You did have a buy imbalance here. What happened as we came up? Sellers defended the previous one and we pushed on lower. And now we have another sell imbalance showing up here. So if we get a rotation up and sellers really want to do this, we'll probably get another rotation back down, at which point you can look for it to come back in, look to slap it over the head and get it back down to that open. So we'll see what happens here. Hopefully it doesn't flush quickly, but I am in my live account, so I might be able to qualify that. Right, so that's what it looks like here. And that's what I got for you guys on today's session, really. Let me get into the particulars of how the team did on today's session. And we'll wrap this guy up, guys. Yeah, they're dumping pretty good. All right, so to wrap this up, hold on. Before I do that, let me just move this down to my lower screen so I might catch this if it moves while I'm doing this. A true addict. All right, so here's our TradePro Performance Index. We are on October the 23rd. Yep, October 23rd. And today's day was a bit more challenging, as you might imagine, because we sign off at around 11-ish a.m. And leading into 11, you had a whole bunch of nothing, whole bunch of chop. There were still opportunities, but there was a bunch of chop. And on today's session, what you will see is we had 45% of the team was up, 13% more or less was flat, and 41% was down on today's session. So while we did close up live positive based on the community's numbers, we did have a pretty even mix of traders that were up on today's session and traders that were down on today's session. This isn't anything new. These kinds of days happen. But what is important is identifying what challenges you had on the session. Right, we had a couple of traders mention that they weren't patient. They were trying levels too many times. Trying a level, you can give it 1 or 2 shots. If you're still there after 3, 4 opportunities, it's not a good level for you to be trading. And that comes in with strict rules, strict risk management, and overall having a game plan to conserve capital. And if you guys want to know how to do that, we have a great YouTube video which goes into how to apply patience with your day trading. And one of those secret sauces is basically the next best trade. So proud of our traders today. Despite these results, still overall 60% of the room was almost green. Almost 60% of the room was green, and very proud of our traders. We asked what some of the challenges on today's session were, and again, it came down to not so much strategy, but the individual traders not applying as much patience, not scratching quickly, trying to extend profits. Little things like that can add up and can, turn a good day into a negative day. And so what we're focusing on each day is making sure that you are applying the right habits, making sure that you're practicing the right habits, so that over the long term, you can see the results of what patience and what discipline can do to your trading. All right, so that's what I got for you guys on today's session. Let me just switch this guy back up here for a quick moment. And here's what we might be seeing here. I am seeing correlations are kind of trying to get some life, trying to pop on up. Here's NASDAQ. I like to watch NASDAQ for my S&P 500 trading. NASDAQ has come into her VWAP, which was a big level of support on today's session. You guys can see that. No different than the SPOOs. We came in at once on the NASDAQ, held it, and flipped to new highs. We're coming right back down in there. We'll see what happens from here. Does volume start picking up as this thing goes up, or does it remain low? If it remains low, we should see this opening range high, overnight high hold as resistance for a continuation lower. That will be my qualifier. I'll be waiting for that to happen if I'm going to be looking to get short on these SPOOs. If that doesn't happen, I'm not going to be in any positions. And as you guys will learn throughout your trading journeys, not having a trade is still considered being a trader. Our goal here as traders is not to make, it is to make money, but it's to manage risk and to have margin in your account for the next day. And that's all that we're here to do. We get paid for how we manage risk, all right? And at the end of the day, risk managers are the ones that get paid. Gamblers are the ones that we take the money from, all right? So we need those gamblers in the markets. I don't want that to be you, because I don't want to be taking your money. And so make sure that you're on the right side of the market here. You're not a gambler. You're not chasing based on emotions, based on what the market's doing, based on flashing numbers. The fact that you need to have a plan, you need to follow that plan, and you need to be around a community of like-minded traders that are looking at the same things that you are. All right, so that's going to be my rant for today. I hope you guys enjoyed that one. Not really seeing any requests or anything of that nature on the interactive chat, so I'm going to take that as my sign to sign off here, and see you guys tomorrow. All right, so thanks so much for showing up today. There was a couple of you that have stayed on. Really do appreciate that. Pele, Ivan, Righteous, not sure what your name is, but thank you guys for being here. Thank you guys for interacting, and thank you for your comments. Until tomorrow, we do these every day. Today's was a little bit delayed just because of technical issues, but in general, they tend to happen every morning, 9 a.m., and every afternoon at 12 p.m. Eastern time, if that works out. What is that bright light? If that works out. All right, so until tomorrow, good luck and good trading, guys. Take care.